it live?
Okay, now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hey guys, this is CCI's chat with Dan. So we have me here, and I'm Jesse, and I'm one of the board members at CCI. And then, do you want to go, Katie?
Yeah, I'm Katie. I'm another board member on CCI.
And then we're gonna go with Emily. Emily, is Emily here?
We can do Dan first if you
Okay.
want.
So like introductions.
Yes. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, no, you guys are doing a great job. Give me 1 second. Let me.
Okay. Sounds
I'm at
good.
work right now. Let me go into this private room. Hi guys, I'm Dan. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Like, just like a little bit of your story, I guess, would be great.
Sure. How much do they know? So I know how much.
Well, they know you're a Korean adoptee and you have a
Do people know why I'm on here?
Yeah. Yeah, we have informed our members who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. That's who I am then.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'm a Korean adoptee, and I work in media, and I'm a rapper too, so.
Awesome.
Musician. Quick question. When it says live, does that mean that there's people outside of the 9 people on this Google Hangout that could be watching?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope. Yeah, we have one viewer so far.
One other viewer.
Nice.
One other viewer. Yeah, and this will be on our website, so others can view it.
And on the YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay, we can start with the introductions. Emily, do you want to go? I don't know if Emily's on.
Okay. So,
okay.
Karina.
Oh.
Yeah, we're just going to do introductions. So, like, introduce yourself, name, where you're living now, where you're adopted from, just like a fun fact.
Rena. Oh, Emily's here.
Okay, hey Emily, what's up?
Okay, we can start with the introductions. Emily, do you want to go?
Me?
Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna say your name, where you're from, or where you're adopted from. Fun fact.
I think there's a lag.
Okay.
All right, that's all right. Should we just skip the introductions and just go to the questions?
Yeah.
You guys
should. You want us to introduce ourselves?
I want to meet you guys. Introduce yourselves. Yeah.
All right. Okay, my name's Katie. I'm adopted from Guilin. I was 2 years old when I was adopted, and now I'm living in New Jersey. Jesse.
Okay, I'll go. I'm Jesse, and I'm one of the board members at CCI. I was adopted from Yuyang, Hunan, China, when I was 10 months old, and I live in North Carolina. And I also had 2 younger sisters adopted from China.
Emily.
Is anyone else with us?
Hi. I live in Central New York, and I was adopted from Yuyang, Hunan.
Whoa, cool.
Karina, do you want to go?
I feel like Karina's having issues. She's muted.
Okay, that's fine. Liana, do you want to go?
Hi, my name is Liana, and I live outside of Philadelphia, and I was adopted from Anhui.
Should I go next?
Feel free. Anybody?
Yeah, go for it.
Keep it coming.
Yeah.
I'm number 6. My name's Anna Ma. I was adopted from Wuhan, China, when I was 8 months old. I'm a senior at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and I'm from Rockford, Illinois, which is central Illinois, about 3 hours from Chicago. Nice to meet you.
Okay, other Katie.
Okay, so I'm the other Katie.
Sorry, not other, but like, yeah, the second Katie.
Second Katie. I was adopted from the Guangdong province when I was 6 months old. Fun fact, I'm graduating on Friday from high school.
Yay!
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Yeah. Guess I'll go
Rachel,
next.
yeah, Rachel, you're next.
I'm Rachel. I was born in Maoming, China at 5 months old, and now I live in Los Angeles.
That's
And
cool.
is Grace on?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. So we're gonna get started with questions. We have a lot of questions actually, but we had all of our not participants sending questions, and also we had some other cool people. So we're just gonna hammer you with questions, and let me know if we're going too fast or anything.
Yeah, sure. Can I ask you guys a quick
And
question?
then at the end we're gonna
Yeah,
open
go
it
ahead.
up to everyone.
You can ask us.
Is everybody that's on right now that's like on the Google Hangout that I can see, are they all members of CCI?
Yeah.
How did they? It looks like everybody's from like around the country.
Yeah.
How did you guys all get connected if everybody's around the country?
We have our Facebook group, and we have our Facebook page or account, and we like reach out to a lot of Chinese adoptees. We try to be an international organization, so there's like adoptees across like in Europe, a lot around America, Canada. Yeah, it's really cool. But
Yeah,
like the board is also across the country too.
Right, we have one in Shanghai, and I think she's like chilling in Malaysia right now, actually. Yeah, so we have people all over. We had a partnership in Cork, Ireland, a couple of years ago. We did a collab video. So yeah, just all over. We're lucky to have such an awesome international community to just hang out.
Yeah, we mostly connected over Facebook though. That's how we
Yeah.
like reached out to a lot of adoptees.
Okay, and then do you guys do like? Do you guys ultimately do like a big convention at the end of the year, or like is there one big thing that you guys do together or advocating for?
We haven't been able to coordinate a conference yet, but we would really love to. I know Korean adoptees have those, and like they do have homeland tours and like motherland tours and all that, but we have yet to gather. But there are other organizations that do have Chinese adoption conferences. Like Adoptee is one of them. But
yeah, and that's in Colorado. And then there's also a Hong Kong conference just for Hong Kongese adoptees. You're right. So we're primarily online. We have a pen pal program, and then we have Facebook chats and chats like these. And we also have on-the-ground projects where we go into orphanages, and that's probably our one trip where we come together. But it's a very small group. We're hoping to make a conference at some point. That would be awesome.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. Sorry, we never introduced like what CCI is or anything like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're an adoptee-only group, so everything we do is adoptee-led, which we're really proud of.
Right.
Okay, so do you want to read out the first question?
Cool. Yeah, we can start with the first question. So, this is from one of the adoptees. When you became involved with music / Wong Foo, was it originally your goal to become a voice for Korean and Asian adoptees?
Say that question one more time.
Yeah, sure. We can type it as well. Katie, you're gonna.
Yeah, I can
type
it.
Oh no, I can hear you guys pretty well. Just go ahead and say it one more time. Sorry.
Okay. When you became involved with music / Wong Foo, was it originally your goal to become a voice for Korean and Asian adoptees?
No, I met them before I started doing YouTube things, so I don't think that was the intention, but I did know that going into it, that there was an opportunity, I think, to be able to use their platform and to be able to use my relationship with them to be able to, I think, expose more of a greater audience, because I know what they're, not only with Wong Foo, but with other people that I know, that they've got bigger audiences than I do, that probably have adoptees that follow them. And I knew that I could possibly leverage that community at some point. And I believe that with it, I put out a documentary. I think that with the documentary and my music that I was able to put out, I was able to do just that. And it was important to me that Wong Foo and all of these really amazing people in the community were able to support me and help me get out the word about my about what I was doing. So yeah, and I would be curious for all of you. Like, do you guys all watch Wong Foo? Do you guys all like? Is it important to you? Like, do you guys watch a lot of YouTube content? Because I guess I feel like as an adoptee that it's almost more important to us that like these Asian American personalities exist, because I know like growing up for me and like probably growing up for a lot of you, it's really difficult to find people, especially find people because your family doesn't look like you, or you to be able to relate to have stuff that you can relate to. So I would imagine if your relationship with YouTube is probably even stronger than maybe other Asian Americans.
Yeah, it was really great, like following Wong Foo's productions, and like a lot of us are fans of him.
Yeah, and everyone can feel free to add in. We just wanted to make the introductions kind of not crazy, but yeah, feel free to add in any comments or anything that you have.
Okay, our next question is, are you happy you met your birth parents later in life, or would you have wished you could have met them like earlier?
I think that
that's my question. I said it because I always thought if I ever got to meet my parents, would I want to meet them younger, and if I was younger, then they would I feel like they would have more control over when I got to see them. But if I got older, because I'm about to turn 18, I want to try to start looking for my birth parents.
Yeah.
I can form more of an opinion of myself and what I think of them instead of someone forcing them, trying to force them in my life. So
yeah,
that's my question, basically.
I'll say that for first off, for anything that I say, please, it's mainly just from my own experience, and I think that especially within the adoptee community, we're all such unique people, and we all have very, very different backgrounds, the way that we were raised, which I think reflects the way that we feel about meeting our biological family, having these different thoughts. Also, I think that me as a Korean adoptee, my story and my narrative is very different than the Chinese adoptee narrative, and so please, if I say anything, I might not be necessarily as knowledgeable about what the Chinese adoptees go through. So please, I apologize in advance if anything that I say doesn't reflect your own experience. But I think that for me personally, though, it was very important that I met them at the time that I think that ultimately I think that you meet them when you meet them, and that I think that us wanting to say that we want to meet them at the right time in your life, I think that the right time in anybody's life is when you're completely ready for it and you feel very comfortable with it. And I don't think that anybody will ever be in a position where they're completely ready for it. But I do think though that because of the fact that I met them at an older age, that yeah, I was very, very I think I was a lot more mature. I think I was a lot more ready for the experience and for it to happen. So I think that ultimately it's probably better for you to meet them when you're a little bit older, probably after the age of 18. I think that you're in a much better state to do it. But I think everybody has a different timeline in their life, and that sometimes you can't plan for when it's going to happen. You kind of just need to just have it happen.
Okay.
So hopefully, I guess for you, yeah, I think that if you're 17 right now, you're going to be 18. I think that you're becoming a lot more mature, and I think that you're a lot smarter than you were when you were 5, and then you probably. But I think that if you feel like that you're if you feel like that you're ready for it, then you should do it then. But it's got to be up to you, and I feel like that some adoptees are not that they're forced to meet their biological family, but some adoptees they have it thrown on them at weird times when they're not ready. I think that it's whenever you're personally ready to do it. If you feel like that you're ready to do it, then more power to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question kind of about birth parent searching, and one of them is, or the question is, do you think that you would still have searched if the prospects for finding your parents were extremely slim? And I think this kind of relates back to the Chinese adoptee community. This was asked by one of our members, and basically, as Chinese adoptees, we have little to no information about where we're from, or even our birthdays. I know my name and my birthday was made up, so
yeah.
I'm just wondering, or the adoptee was wondering, if it was really slim chance of finding your parents, if you would have still gone for it.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I can't speak for the Chinese adoptee experience. I know that your experience is going to be very different with the way that you guys approach your records. Speaking strictly from the Korean adoptee standpoint, I do know that my information was really slim. I thought that I had a very slim chance to be able to find it. Granted, there was at least a little bit of information, and that I at least knew that I had an agency that could potentially start looking for me. But it was still very, very slim, and there wasn't a lot of information, and I kind of just I assumed that they weren't going to be able to find. I didn't go into it thinking that, oh, good, they're going to be able to find it, find them. I went into it going, I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And then I think that I had a very unique experience, and I got really, 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 really lucky. It was a once in a lifetime chance to be able to meet them, and then also everything could have. I had a lot of anxiety going into it. It could have been a very negative experience for me. They could have ultimately my biological mom. I got really lucky. My biological mom was still together with my biological father, which I don't think is very common at all. And they still. And I had a brother and a sister, who were totally well-adjusted and like very, very good people. And the family that I met were very like based off what I have experienced so far, they're very good people. And so I think I got very lucky with my current situation. Whereas it could have been, I had assumed that maybe it was just my biological mom that I was going to meet, and she could have been anything. She could have been very poor. She could have been she could have been dead by the time that I found her. I don't know. She could have been she could have been a prostitute. I don't know. Like there was a lot of things that I think that went into my mind before I actually got the information that they were still together. So I think I've got a once in a lifetime thing that not many other adoptees are going to be able to experience. And I don't take that lightly. I'm very, very I'm very blessed, and I consider myself to be I'm so thankful that it happened. But that's why I feel like that I'm kind of a bad person to ask about like whether or not if you had more information, less information. I think that ultimately I had zero information. Like I had little information, and I went into it just assuming that I wasn't going to be able to meet them. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess another follow-up question would be, because you had all these unknowns about who you were going to meet and everything really, and how you were going to react, what compelled you to kind of make a documentary out of it? How do you decide to come to that?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to originally, even before that I knew I was going to meet my biological family. I was going out to Korea that summer. I didn't go out to Korea to like meet my biological family. I was going to Korea, and then I just happened to find out that I was given this opportunity to be able to meet them while I was out there. So if the stars didn't align with me going out at the same time, they happened to like be okay with meeting me, then this documentary probably would have never been made. Wow. So I think just the stars aligned in really, really incredible ways for this to happen. I was going out there for this Korean adoptee convention, which is very, very. If you watch the documentary, that's part of the reason why I'm out there. And originally, I was going to go out there just to document other adoptee lifestyles. I think that like each of us has a very unique background that people from around the world. I was going to meet adoptees from like Germany, from the Netherlands, and so I wanted to like document them myself. And then we got the story that I just had like they were willing to meet with me, and then they were willing to be okay with being filmed. And I was like, what the hell? Like I've got a once in a lifetime chance to do this, and I knew that I really wanted to produce some meaningful content that I think would relate to the adoptee experience, being able to use the platforms and the networks that I knew, and I was able to do just that, luckily.
Awesome. That's interesting hearing the whole backstory of it. That kind of was about stars aligning. Seems like that's like the whole theme of adoption, really.
Yeah.
Stars aligning.
Yeah. I think that a lot of adoptees can probably speak to another experience in your lives about things that kind of just happen the way they happen. It's really incredible.
Definitely. Yeah, just like being with our families, like the people who we are with like now, it's just kind of like what determined, like how do we get placed with the families that we are with now? It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah.
Like what are the chances? So it's pretty amazing to really think about it. We have another question. This is from a member, actually part of this chat. She says, as an adoptee, I find that the term banana fits my story well. I'm a Chinese person who grew up with a white mom. What about you? How do you view the term banana? And should we, as Korean or Chinese American adoptees, approach immigrant Asian Americans when they call us whitewashed or banana?
So Anna, feel free to chime in for this because this is your question.
That's like my big journey right now. Like, what does it mean to be American? What does it mean to be a Chinese adoptee in the U.S.?
Yeah.
And I feel like in college, people always try to put me into this box where, no, you're Asian, or like, no, you're white. And it's very frustrating because I feel like I am a part of like two worlds. And when I feel more racism from Asian people than I do white people. And it's a really like ironic dynamic because when I'm in a group of like my white friends from high school, everyone knows like, oh yeah, she's Asian, like, oh, she's Chinese. Like there's no doubt in their mind that I'm authentically Asian. And then when I'm with my college friends, who are from California, from New York, from Massachusetts, and they're all like Asian American. They're like, Anna, you're like I have, if I had like one American white friend, like you're my white friend. You're like my best white friend. Like, I identify with being American. Like I love country music more than like EDM. I'm down for like a hamburger, like, but I'm also like okay with sushi too. And it's just really weird because people assume that like I can speak fluent Chinese when it's really more intermediate level. And I'm a part of an Asian American sorority, Kappa Phi Lambda, and like my little sis, she's an international. She's from China, and so she's an international student at U of I. And so her first language is Chinese, and there are some days where I'll say a full conversation with her in Chinese, like really fast, and like the tone is correct, and she's like, "Wow, you're actually a real Chinese person," and that just hurts like a lot,
Yeah.
because it's like, hey, okay, here's what I think makes me Chinese. Like I was born there. I lived there for 2 years because my mom worked for Our Chinese Daughters Foundation, which was which was an organization that brought China's adopted families and their kids on tours. So we'd visit like Chengdu with the pandas, we'd visit Beijing, we'd see the Great Wall. My mom developed like an educational curriculum to kind of tie in like Chinese language and Chinese culture, learning about the history, and so I felt like living there for 2 years like made me Chinese. And then I come back to the States and I have people telling me like, no, you're definitely more white than Asian. And it's very like conflicting because my mom's white and then my dad, he is Chinese. He's like from Beijing. His first language was Chinese, but he never really lived with us. And it was very difficult growing up having like that Chinese part of my life, like my dad per se, like always abroad, like always working in China. So I was basically raised by like my white mom. So in college, I've been struggling with this term banana because a lot of people talk about it in this like negative connotation where I don't know if you've seen any news about this from like UIC or U of I, but there's this grassroots organization called Paradox, and they did this project called the Banana Story, and it's basically a bunch of Asian Americans griping about what it's like being from an immigrant family growing up in the U.S., and a lot of their stories, they talk about being forced to being assimilated to white culture, how the banana, like it's a bunch of photos with like people with a banana to their head, like this, and then them talking about some challenges they face growing up, you know, feeling like a second-class citizen, speaking in broken English, people assuming that they can't speak English when their English is perfectly fine, things like that. And I didn't connect with the negativeness of the banana story because I felt like it like identified me like spot on. You know, I look Chinese, but you know, I feel white. It's not like I feel white, like white is like the goal, but I like connect with more elements of American culture than Chinese culture. But then they argue from the premise that, hey, Asian American is also American. So they want to take out like the Asian hyphen and just call all of us American. But I feel like that's a way of assimilation where we lose like our part of a culture. So I just wanted to know your thoughts about like how do you feel if someone calls you a banana? Or have you ever been called like whitewashed, and how did you react to it?
Can I ask you just really quick, which college you go to again?
I go to U of I at Urbana-Champaign.
Okay, I've been there before. And there's a good like Asian population there, right? You wouldn't consider it completely. It's not just like a primarily white school. There's an Asian population there, right?
It's like 14% Asian American.
14% Asian American, got it. Yeah, no, I think that's something that like is very, very unique to our experience, and something that I feel like that I think about it all the time. And when I was in college, I thought about it all the time about what it really meant to be Asian in America, whether or not, just to, I guess, to approach your immediate question about how I feel about the word banana. I generally it's never been, I guess, said to me in a insulting way. It's always been kind of more of a tongue-in-cheek way, and so I've never, I guess, seen it as a negative thing. I feel for a lot of Asians, and maybe this is something that, like, as an Asian adoptee, maybe I think about a lot more than like just Asian Americans. I agree that like a lot of Asian Americans, a lot of my Asian American friends treat me a lot worse than a lot of my like white friends usually. Like I feel a lot more out of place when I'm around like Asian people than I am around like white people, and it's very very ironic. But I will say that, and maybe it's just because I grew up in Southern California and I'm currently living in LA. Maybe that's why I don't. I think that a lot of Asian Americans also like they don't like owning certain words versus like other minority communities. I think are a lot more open to like owning certain words within their community. And a lot of Asian Americans really do not want to like they want to assimilate. They don't want to be seen as like Asian Americans. They don't like this is something that I deal with like as an Asian American musician. A lot of Asian American musicians just hate being like labeled Asian American musicians. They hate the fact that they're like being put in this box of like only being like seen as like an Asian American musician. And I love it. I love knowing that my music is related to the fact that that part of it comes from my identity as an Asian American, and the fact that I think about like what's my place in America. It's all inspired by the fact that I am Asian in America, and so I definitely own that fact. I own the fact that I'm a banana. I talk very. I get it from a lot of my white friends that I talk very very white, or that I get from like a lot of Asian people. They're like, oh, Dan talks with like a really white accent, which is interesting because I don't know what like a white accent is. Ultimately, all Asian Americans I think talk with a white accent, based off of where they're from. And also because there's not really an Asian American accent. There's an Asian accent, but there's not really like an Asian American accent. So, long story short, how do I view the term banana? It doesn't really bother me that much, but it definitely bothers me that like I think that to address other Asians in the way that I feel like about myself being Asian, it bothers me that other Asian people don't consider me to be like full Asian. And I think Korean community is very like that, like with the Chinese community possibly, and that like Korean people like treat me very. I don't speak Korean. They'll talk Korean around me and probably talk shit about me. I don't know. It's kind of like a part of it. Like I'm not really Korean because I didn't grow up with the culture, and ultimately I'm not really Korean. But I think that's just the challenge of being an adoptee and what gives us such an interesting mind state, and that like it's something that like ultimately I could see it being a negative, but I think it's also positive that we have to go through this, and that we have to think about this because it makes us this is silly, but it adds character to us. You know, it makes us different and unique in America. And ultimately, I would much rather be Asian adoptee than like just Asian American because I think that my entire life right now is based off the fact that I was adopted, and I love like having such a unique, different background. I know other adoptees would speak negatively about their experience, and that to each their own, and it's understandable why they would. But for me, it was a very enjoyable thing knowing that like I think the way that I do. I experience the world as an adoptee, not as an Asian American, not as a white American, but like as this Asian adoptee American.
Yeah, that's really a good distinction. I like that. Like that we have something to be proud of. Like that's definitely something we try to encourage our members and like just any adoptee we meet, you know, like to be proud of who you are and like not to be ashamed of our experiences because it is unique and like not a lot of people will be able to relate to us, and that's why it's really good to have these experiences and connecting with each other. So yeah.
It's like we're a part of a really cool club.
Yeah, exactly. I like your response. That was a good reply.
Yeah, and then like honestly, for other Asians that call you whitewashed or a banana, or like even like white people to call you a banana or like whitewashed, that's on them. You just need to educate them. Hopefully, it's not done in like a really really negative way. If it is, then you need to have like this is a serious thing. Like you need to have a conversation with that person and like educate them and let them know, hey, I feel uncomfortable when you say that, because a lot of it's just ignorance, but not like ignorance in like a bad way. I think when people hear the word ignorance and you call somebody ignorant, they act negatively and get very defensive like immediately. That's not being ignorant isn't a bad thing. I'm very ignorant about a lot of things in the world. And if I was told that I was ignorant about something and then the person followed up and educated me immediately about like this is why what you said may have been disparaging or like negative, I would appreciate that as a human being. So I think it's in the way that you approach it, and that people do need to be educated if it's something that you feel uncomfortable about. You need to let them know that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. It was good to hear like another adoptee's perspective about it. I have like 2 adoptee friends at U of I, but they don't talk about like I'm close with them, but we don't really talk about like race identity or what what being adopted means to us. Like we celebrate our gotcha days, like a birthday dinner, and that's like really meaningful, and I'm like really thankful for that. But sometimes I wish they were comfortable talking about like how that relates to their identity, and they just kind of like blindly accept it and don't think about like what it means to them, I guess. So I'm glad that we had this chat.
Absolutely. Yeah, it happens at different times for different people too. Like my sister, I've got a sister, and she's younger than me. She's still very unwilling to talk about her adoption. Or like I try to talk to her about it, but she doesn't like. I don't talk to her about it. So it happens to people at different times in their life, and they just have to be comfortable and ready to do it. But that's good that you've got other friends that are adopted. I didn't have a lot of friends that were adopted in college. When I did meet people that were adopted, I was blown away by that. And I started my own little adoptee club. Like not a club, but like we got together and we talked about like what it meant. I met up with there was like 3 of us, and we met up and we had like we just had a long conversation about like our experiences, which was nice. Some of them felt like it was too soon, like they didn't participate as much, but it's still a good thing I think to be able to discuss. And ultimately, conversation is king. You need to, I think conversation will always be very, very positive. Whether or not a negative outcome comes out of it, it's still a positive thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you said something because I have a sister too, and she was adopted from the same orphanage as me, just at a different time. And she has no desire to be Chinese or Asian at all. She's completely rejected part of her identity, and it's something that she never wants to talk about. And when we lived in China, she didn't have a very good experience. She got culture shock and never got over it. And it was a very difficult situation. She's always got these like bad memories about people rejecting her or people calling her dumb because she couldn't speak Chinese like perfectly, when she was 8 years old. Yeah. And so I always feel this like disconnect with my other adopted sister because, she's my immediate family, but we deal with adoption in such different ways. Like I want to talk about it, I want to discuss it, I want to know I want to learn more about gender inequality like in China and how it affects our lives. And she just thinks that China is like the worst people. They're the worst in the world, and they're the reason why like we were like left at bus stops and hospitals. And she had like she has nightmares a lot about like being left, and so and it really like pains me to see her not want to connect with her like Asian American Chinese adoptee identity, because I think that like that's the be able to make peace with. And we've had like many arguments about like is it important to meet our birth parents or not. And I feel like a lot of younger adoptees have this romanticized view. This is just my experience, but that it was a good experience, but it might not be, and it might be like for the better. Like your adopted parents, those are like the people that raised you. They're the people that like loved you and invested in you, and it's important to like just deal with your anger in like a healthy way and everything. And I just wish that like my sister and I could have those like healthy conversations, but it's kind of like a closed door right now, and I'm hoping that she's graduating high school and she's going off to college. I hope that like when she does have questions, she'll feel comfortable to like talk to me about them. So
yeah.
Hey, we actually got a reply to one of people are watching this chat, which is awesome. And we got a reply from Katie or Catherine Mentel. She says about one of the points you made. She said, "Hi Dan, it's great to talk to you again after meeting you at Rutgers a few months ago. I was wondering if you could elaborate on the second point you made in the Fung Rose video, the difference between Asian adoptee guys versus Asian adoptee girls. That was the only part I was confused about. Maybe I don't understand it because as a Chinese adoptee, I grew up around almost all female adoptees. I don't know if you remember this point when you in the video, but you thought there was a difference between Asian adoptee guys and Asian adoptee girls."
Sure. Really quick, where's this being streamed? Can you send me the link?
Yeah, this is just on the video on the YouTube channel.
Where's your YouTube channel?
I just posted it in the comments or in this chat. I could just email it to you. Our YouTube channel is on our website.
Clicked it, found it.
You found it? Okay, great. You can read the comment yourself and then reply to it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, I'll be honest. Like I think that like my experience as a male, I think it's really difficult for me to say anything on behalf of like any females, whether or not they're adopted or not. I think it was more or less in the aspect that like I know that there are differences between the way that Asian adoptee males and Asian adoptee females are just as there's differences between males and females in the way that they're raised. I think that the biggest difference, at least in my head, is that like I think that as a male in general, I think that um, there's things that like your parents need to teach you. I know I'm being very broad with this, just because I'm trying to like not say anything stupid.
Not
But
be PC about it. Yeah.
but like as an Asian female, there's definitely things that like as a female that you need to like that your parents need to teach you. But as an Asian female, there's other things that like I think that maybe your mom or your dad can't like really easily teach you about. One thing immediately that comes to mind is like maybe makeup and like hair, and I feel like that just as like the way that like I approach the way that I get ready, that like I can't look at a white guy and go that's the same way that I want to do my hair. I think that that's the reason why maybe a lot of Asian adoptee females watch maybe like vloggers or people that like do maybe like makeup tutorials. Because the way that like I think Asian females put on makeup is probably different the way that white females or black females put on makeup or do their hair. That's gonna be my general like broad statement, just because I gotta really like prepare myself before I like speak about this. But that may or may not be correct. I would assume that it's probably correct, but that may or may not be correct. But you
Yeah,
can
I
imagine.
definitely.
So Asians should only wear like Asian type of makeup. I'm just kidding.
Well, not
I remember
Asian
when
type
I
of makeup,
started
but
doing my
I would admit
makeup,
like because as like a I would just I don't know like as an Asian male like there's certain like there's skin products that I use like as an Asian male that I've been told by other Asian males that like oh you should like use this particular gel. There's like this really like good cream for my skin that I use that like is a Korean like skin cream, but my white friends would have had no idea, but because of the fact that my skin's different than like their skin is, because we have different like genetic built makeup, like I would find that out only because of like my Asian friends. Whereas maybe if I had like an Asian dad, he'd be able to recommend something like that immediately.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I appreciate you being PC. Like, yeah.
Okay, I think Jesse has some more questions to ask.
Great. And I can actually, to be honest, I can probably take 2 more questions.
Yeah, that sounds about time.
Yeah.
I've got a meeting at 8 o'clock, so.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we don't want to keep you too long, or anyone else for that matter. So, last couple of questions. How do you deal with the negativity that sometimes is associated with the adoption community? I guess, like Anna was saying earlier, there's a lot of people who aren't ready to talk, or they're a little angry about it. And I guess how do you deal with that negativity while still kind of listening to their side?
How do I deal with the negativity from like other adoptees? Or
yeah, there's some very like there's a lot of feelings going on online and in person from adoptees, and how do you grapple with just sometimes the overwhelming negativity?
Yeah, that's a really really good question. I definitely have met adoptees that feel a certain way from both sides. I've met other adoptees that are very like positive about their experience. I've met adoptees that are very neutral about their experience, and I've met adoptees that are very negative about their experience. I typically take I don't take anybody's side. Like first and foremost, even with my documentary, even though it might seem like I'm advocating for like a positive adoptee experience, it's really just a unique story. It's not really advocating for adoption or against adoption or for like a positive experience or a negative experience. It's just an experience. I think there's a lot of adoptees that feel a certain way, and it's really hard for me to argue against that because they've got really interesting stories that would prove why they feel that way. And so I can't say that like I've ever like, and I think that part of the reason is because I feel like that maybe I am very political with the way that I talk, and that I make sure that like I'm never insulting, but I'm also like very understanding though, and I would never like advocate for either side, but just in the same way like I understand from either side the way that people feel. So I think it's just about communicating. I think communicating is the #1 thing. And if you do meet other adoptees that are very negative towards it, or maybe even very positive, and you don't feel that way about like their experience, they're from different communities than you are, probably, and they grew up in a very different way than you grew up. And I think it's about understanding one another and having a dialogue with one another to be able to get on each other's side. And it doesn't mean that you need to agree with them at the end of it. That's completely not the point. You don't need to agree with somebody at the end of your conversation. But as long as you guys can both respect the fact that you think differently, then that's positive.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that sometimes it hurts the most when other adoptees are kind of like judgy on you how you feel and like, don't validate your feelings. So yeah, I agree. Just like making sure that everyone hears each other out, no matter what they're feeling.
Yeah, and that's a really PC like love everybody kind of question like answer, and it's a lot more like I understand it's a lot more difficult than that. It's a lot. It's not as easy as just saying what I just said, but I think that if you can be on the right, when I say be on the right side, I mean if you could take the higher road in every situation you go into, at least you know at the end of it that you did the right thing.
Right. Good piece of advice, Dan.
How do you respond if people say like you should feel grateful? Have you had that question?
Ooh, that's a really complex question, and I totally understand what you're talking about. And yeah, I get that. I typically actually get that from like white people, particularly like white parents that like have because this is because we're all adoptees here, and because we're just talking like we understand each. It's typically from like really religious like white parents that like bring it up, and this isn't me like making fun of that because I understand like where they're coming from. But again, I feel like the people that say that, unless they're saying it in a really negative way, and you can usually tell if they're saying it in like a really like demeaning way. Typically, they're saying it from a perspective of, even if it sounds insulting, typically just it comes from the perspective typically it comes from the perspective of they're just ignorant and they just don't know. Like from our perspective as an adoptee, they would assume that like you should feel very like privileged and very like grateful that like that you're living in the United States, and the United States is the most beautiful place in the world, and that like you have all of these luxuries because of the fact, which isn't true for everybody, and it's not true for anybody really in the long scheme of things. But it's just about like having them understand. You just need to like communicate your feelings with them and understand that like it's not coming from a mean place unless it's coming from a mean place. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Usually it's genuine. It's just kind of uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. There was a blogger that did a really good this Korean adoptee blogger. I forgot her name, but I'll put it on the CCI page. She wrote about like what that phrase means, like to be grateful, and she responded in this quote that was like, when you ask me, like, should I be grateful, you're making me out to be a child to be saved, not a addition to the family. And I think
agree.
A lot of people, I think a lot of people do a misstep when they ask that type of question. It's very intrusive.
Yeah. So we have. Sorry, did someone else want to say something?
I think you have to almost sum it up soon.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Yeah, thanks for keeping tabs on time. Okay, so last one, Dan. Thank you so much for again being here. So last one. One piece of advice do you have for the up and coming Chinese adoptee community? We're getting older now, and so now we're becoming adults, like kind of like the Korean adoptee community.
What do I have? What kind of advice do I have?
Like one thing. Like one piece of advice that you feel is most important to share with the Chinese adoptee community.
I think it's really. I know this is taking me kind of taking a step aside from like really answering the question, but I think it would be really. I can't really give advice because I think that you're like, especially it's bad enough for me to give advice to like the Korean community, less alone. Because I think that we all come from different backgrounds. I would say that it just generally comes down to I think it's important that we're communicating and that we're talking about like the way that we feel as adoptees, and that like I think obviously you guys participate in this conversation, like you guys have a general interest towards like wanting to talk about it. We have a very like interesting life, and that like honestly it's part of our struggle that the rest of our life we're gonna have to deal with this. But it's also part of like the real beauty that we can understand. I think that we see the world in a different way that other people will never see the world. And I think that we have a very unique mind state and very unique like viewpoint into white America, into the lives of like kind of like living biculturally but not, that other people will never ever have. And I think that we were very lucky to have that mind state because I think that it makes us ultimately, again, better people within the scheme of the world. So we're going to go through a lot of shit. Like, it's just like that's going to happen. You're going to be really confused. College is going to be really confusing. If you're still in high school is very confusing.
Oh, yeah.
But
High school sucks.
College, it gets better, guys. That's all it gets better.
College is so great. College is like such a great time to explore.
yeah, but I think that you guys just need to find other like it's important to have role models, and I think that I'm lucky enough to be around and being I'm lucky enough to say that I live in Southern California and that I can find other Asian people to be able to relate to, and some of you might not necessarily have that particular situation, but I think that as long as you have a good community of friends and people around you that understand you and that are treating you correctly, then that's the most important thing.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks, Dan.
reply. Yeah, and your time.
Yeah, and just by the way, you're a role model. You're a role
you've
model
definitely
to
been
our
a
community.
huge role model.
And the Korean adoptee community is like a complete role model to the Chinese adoptee community.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Saved the life.
I left really quick, just because I have to get off this really soon. I left my contact information on the side. If you guys have any other questions, add me on Facebook, or my email address is right there. Feel free to email me. I'm more than okay for you guys to like use that. Please don't share it with the broader community. But like, I'm very open in general to being able to like talk to people about adoption stuff. I am really busy right now, so if I don't respond back, it's not because I'm being like a jerk or anything. It's because I might have not seen it. And then finally, I am putting out a show like on ISA TV where my documentary was. I want to explore adoption stuff way more than I currently am through YouTube and using YouTube and using my other YouTube friends to help create more of a platform for adoptees. And so I am putting out a show on ISA TV in early July called Asianish, and it's about like me like being like it's exactly what we're talking about. It's about like feeling like you're American, but like you grew up with like very American things, and I missed out on a lot of like Asian stuff growing up. Didn't eat Korean food. Didn't do like after school like tutoring. Never learned the language. There's all these funny things that I think that we can all relate to as adoptees that we didn't get to do because we weren't like Asian enough. And so it's about me reliving all that stuff. So I'm going to be doing that show. And then if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. I'm going to be starting to post more music videos. I'm going to put out another album in the fall that's going to be really adoption oriented. And
Awesome.
There's resources for Chinese adoptees. Go to the Chinese adoptee camps. If you guys are old enough, become counselors for it. They need more counselors. They really need more counselors because honestly, there's very little like Chinese adoptee counselors that go to the camp. It's at the heritage camps. And yeah, please stay in touch though. I'm very willing to like talk to more people. And I'll probably be coming out to your city sometime soon. I'm coming out to St. Louis at the end of June. I'm coming out to Houston in 2 weeks. I don't know if any of you guys like live in those areas. And then I'll be coming out to other areas soon too. So stay in touch.
Awesome.
Come to
Okay,
Chicago.
thank you for having you here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Please stay in touch with me. I really appreciate the opportunity. You guys are doing great things, bringing to the community. What you're doing is important. My advice is to keep on doing what you're doing. So thank you guys. All right, I gotta go.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Bye.